Call this meeting to order. I'd like to have an adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Third.
I beat you first.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Alpine, two-way traffic. We've had the police chief up looking at it, had Ella up there and James. And I think we'll have the police chief get up and speak on Alpine.
Well, nothing new that we haven't already talked about when it comes to Alpine. It's a narrow road, like a lot of our roads. It has a couple of unique characteristics. As far as if you looked at the paved road, it's no more narrower than a lot of our other roads, which are already too narrow. We all know this. But the drop-offs on Alpine are the problems. If you go out there with two vehicles of moderate size, not even some of the larger ones, there's a couple of areas where you really can't even pass without one of you having to drop two tires off. And there's our problem. On Alpine, the shoulders is field dirt. You're either going to sink up to your axle or you're going to fall off the mountain because there is nowhere to go. We went out there and we looked at it. I've walked it. James has walked it. It's if the shoulders were built properly, no harm, no foul. Problem is they're not. What shoulders are there mostly is just field dirt with grass growing on it. You step in it, you're going to go up, and you're going to sink. If your tire goes in it, it's going to sink, and then you slide. And that's the problem. And it's on both sides of the road, even on the uphill side. And in some places, the erosion is actually going up underneath the edge of the pavement. So the shoulders is the problem. Now, the one primary complaint that we do have is from the one resident at the end of the road where the one-way begins. We went out there and we've looked at it, came up with a plan to where we believe we can make enough space there to where they can negotiate and have a turnaround at the entrance of their driveway so that they can come and go. The problem they're having is, some of you guys may know the driveways, some of our driveways come in at an angle. Well, theirs comes in at an angle. So for example, you come in on the one way, you have to drive past your driveway because it's angling this way. They have to drive down to Alex and either back into their driveway, or they have to drive down to Alex, turn around, and come back to their driveway because of the angle of approach. Okay, well, what if you come the other way? Because there's two ways. You can just come around Ridgepole, which is actually the faster of the two routes, and you pull in. You pull in perfectly. Well, that's great. You do. You pull in perfectly. When you get ready to leave, you're now backing down Alpine all the way to Alex to turn around to leave. And it only affects the one house. Okay. That's because of the dynamics of how the driveway is built. But we believe there's enough space there. There would be the removal of a tree that's there. Technically, it's on the right of way, but it's also part of their yard. Their house is extremely close to the road. So we'd like to talk to the homeowner. They have some family dynamics that are going on right now, so we'll talk to them whenever they're available. But that's pretty much the result of Alpine. Now, if you compare it to all of our other roads, like I said, the width of the road isn't a problem. It's going to be the shoulders. And when I first came to Sky Valley, the county was putting shoulders along the one side of that road, but they used field dirt.
Yes.
And you know, and the people who live on it will tell you, if you drop off, you sink immediately, and that would be the problem. And that's kind of what we're stuck with is, you know, there's not a quick fix, there's not an easy fix, and there's not a cheap and an inexpensive fix.
Is there any way to move that sign down past their house so that they can?
It's actually past their house already.
So
but-
they could come and go.
Oh yeah, they can come and go, but the problem is you're wind up, regardless of what they're doing, they're having to back about 200 feet or more to Alex Mountain to turn around. Because the road is like this, their driveway is at an extreme angle like that, if you can just imagine. So if they come from Ridgepole up LaBelle and into there, they drive right into their carport, no problem. When they get ready to leave, they have to back all the way down to Alex Mountain to turn around to go there. So now you have them backing down an extremely long way to get there. If we can widen out and create that area that we're talking about, they should be able to just back right out and turn and go. No different than a lot of people do. We see that a lot over on the other side of town where some people, but the roads are wide enough up there for they can back out and make that turn. That would probably be the quick and easiest and cheapest fix, is to take that tree down, pave that, widen it out so that she can back out and turn and go. Because if you tackle the expense of doing what you would want to do to the road, we've even looked at trying to put up guardrails on the road. There's no good dirt to put a guardrail in. So, I mean, you're looking at a high cost. It's going to be expensive regardless. This should alleviate her problem. And like I said, she's the most directly affected.
And I think everybody in the room got the email. It was her husband that got killed in that farming accident.
Right.
Yeah, so this really, we can, when she's ready to have the conversation, we've been out there, we've looked at everything, we have some workarounds, we just, right now it's just not really time to address it with her, I didn't feel, so. And she wasn't at home when we were there.
No, she's in Nebraska.
Yeah. I did hear from her, she was actually surprised that we were looking at this again. So once we decide what we're gonna be able to do as far as the turnaround, I'll get back with her again and make sure that she understands what we propose to do with this.
Why do we not have the same problem on the second house? Look, they both, I'm looking at this on Google Earth right here, we both have the same issue.
The second house has a circular drive, you pull in and it loops around.
Oh, I see, okay, that's a portico on the front, I didn't see
Yeah.
that side of the driveway. Okay, because I was gonna say, when this did come up last time, I'm not affected in a personal manner, so I sent everybody over there an email, and it seemed like the majority of y'all were more opposed to it being two-way and wanted to continue one way.
It's too dangerous.
And,
Highly. I mean,
And
we
yeah.
catch people violating the one-way from time to time, and there's nowhere to go when you meet them.
That's correct.
no, but
And
you're
there's
right,
nowhere to
that thick paving, but, Linda was also asked to, check on putting some gravel, in other words, we talked about trying to widen it 18 inches with some gravel and build it up like they did.
If you
Especially
raise
right-
that ditch,
Huh?
you raise that ditch to the point where it's not dangerous,
Right.
so you can actually exit the pavement and not bottom out, it would certainly improve the situation.
But where's your
What I don't understand from this particular family, what they're wanting to do is back out of the driveway and then go straight up Alpine. Why don't they come in Alpine, back into their driveway, and they're all, you gotta back one way or the other.
And that's the same question I was just sitting here looking at. I mean, that looks like it's very simple.
Common
Pull up,
sense.
back in,
Yeah.
you're done.
I mean, I back into my driveway for other reasons, but
you're complaining about that. I just tell you what was reported to us.
I understand, and I appreciate that.
And, to me, the answer of two-weighing Alpine that's,
Bad.
yeah. And filling in the ditch on the upper side is bad because you have a lot of water coming down that mountain. If you fill the ditch in,
All right.
you're gonna have it washing out your roads.
Well, and then, then you're just creating additional expense for the city to actually accomplish something that I think the majority of the residents that live on that road are satisfied with now, so, all right.
And this, to be honest, this is not an exclusive Alpine problem. There's many houses right around Saddleback Sugarbush. A lot of houses you have to pull in and you have to back out, and the driveways are just extremely narrow, and it's extremely steep on the sides, so it's not a unique problem.
No, I have to do it every day because I got too many cars, so I can't turn around up there. So I have to back in.
But there are, if you took that tree out, you could actually pave that, it's only a 6-foot section. Give them plenty of room to just back out and turn around if that's what they want. And technically, we can do that because that is our right of way. But are we opening Pandora's box for everyone in
You have to
town?
fix everybody.
That-
So that- Like I said, there's not a quick and easy fix, and sometimes saying no is hard.
Okay.
Well, I agree that if they gotta back out, they can back in, which would alleviate
The whole problem.
the problem. And, I think when the lady comes back, before we do any work there, that we should get with her
Okay,
Sounds good.
and,
I think she'll be
Discuss it
back
further.
during the holidays.
okay.
You know, they really are seldom here.
Yeah.
I mean, once or twice a year. And we've never met them in 10 years that we've lived there, because they're not here that often. And I don't mean anything negative about that, it's just
No,
a fact.
and they have multiple houses. I pulled them up this morning to look and see, but I wanted to pull up the house and double check it
Yeah.
before I came down here. They have multiple homes here, so.
Oh, really? That's why we never see them.
Well, the sister up here, isn't she?
Mhm.
Does she have a sister?
Yes.
I don't know, they all came up in one name.
No.
It was actually 4 properties, but 2 were vacant lots and 2 were houses.
Mhm. Sister?
And it's not really germane to this issue,
Yeah,
but
right,
just a
exactly.
point of
Yeah,
interest.
yeah.
And by the way, Alpine is narrower than many of the roads here in Sky Valley.
But we have some that are worse.
I would just email her, yeah, as Bob was saying, that we'd like to meet with her when she gets
Okay,
back.
I'll let her know then.
thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any more discussions on Alpine? If not, we'll go to the bear ordinance.
I think we have somebody here who would like to address that.
Well, let me hear what y'all are
Okay.
thinking first, and I'll put my 2 cents in.
Why don't you let us take care of it? Eugene, please, thank you. Linda, do you have anything on this bear
No.
ordinance? I have one if you want.
I had asked Doug about this. I know he had sent us the ordinances previously that we had, and I'm sure you all have looked at these again, and trying to decide how we want to do this. Have you had a chance to look at this again, Doug, to see what
I have,
route
I
you
mean,
recommend?
I haven't put anything together specifically for us because I wanted to talk and see what the council wanted to do. But I pulled some ordinances from Florida, I think from Tennessee, from Colorado, and elsewhere about possible ideas. When we brought it up a few months back, I think the issues were bird feeders and things of that nature, leaving those out. Kind of garbage can ordinance and things like that, but what else were y'all considering as far as the bear ordinance?
Well, I think we need to have some garbage containers that are bear-proof.
Yeah.
Well, Vaughn, I was just saying, Vaughn went down and met with the police chief in Helen and rode around, and they had some bear issues down there. Would you feel, you and I've talked about it, would you fill everybody else in on what you learned?
Well, they're struggling with the exact same problems we are. It's they have we have a lot of weekend visitors, timeshare, well, you know, Helen, they have a lot more of the same thing. It's trash being put out improperly, and it's bird feeders. Bird feeders is also for their permanent residents. The bird feeders are what's drawing the bears to their residence, because the permanent people that are there know, put your trash out right before the trash truck comes. The renters either don't know or don't care, and they're from an area where they don't even think about a bear coming around. And they put out trash before they go to bed, and they wake up the next morning and it's everywhere. So they're struggling with the same problems we're having. They do not do the bear-proof trash containers because, one, they only work for a short period of time. The bears figure out how to get into them, as they've done here with the timeshares. They've done figured out how to pop them open. And those things are extremely expensive. I mean, the trash cans, bear-proof containers are extremely expensive. So is there a quick fix? No. It's just something that you have to day be conscious of and deal with, and that's what they do. They've tried the different types of dumpsters over there, the types with the spring lids. The problem with the spring lids is the bears get in them and then they can't get out. We saw that at Valley View. You know, we've had a bear trapped in there to where we've had to go over there and slide the door open and then get out of there so the bear can come out. Because when you slide it open and they've been trapped in there all night, guess what they're doing? They're on their way out and you're standing right there. So we've dealt with that a time or two. corrals, which is kind of like we have in your area, where you have the wooden corral with a dumpster in it. Same issue with those, as well as trash cans within there. They'll get in there and they'll just go through those cans and make a mess. When you open up, it's like a mess. What's the answer? I don't know. I haven't seen anyone with a perfect answer. I know everyone struggles with the same problem. The best solution I have seen is like the corral situation, where they have it enclosed in a wire mesh cage. It's got a top on it. And you open it up and you walk in, and then you put your trash in the dumpster, and the door has a spring on it to keep it shut. And then when they leave, it slams shut and you relatch it. But then again, it's not perfect because people don't relatch it. And the bears can slap it open and then they're in. And now the bear's trapped in your cage. So there's not a perfect answer. We're not the only people dealing with it. But one thing that is common is human behavior. We create most of this problem. And the bird feeders is something that's everyone's dealing with. They'll even drink hummingbird feeders. So, I mean, it's any type of a bird feeder. And as the rangers will tell you, we're feeding the birds whenever there's an abundant supply of food. So if you feed your birds, feed them when they need it. And that will also keep a continual food source down, because bears will imprint, meaning they will return to where they found food. They find food at your house once, trust me, they'll be back 3 or 4 or 5 more times just checking it until they keep, then they'll eventually forget it and move on. But renters who aren't here regularly, making mistakes, and then homeowners who want to put their bird feeder out because it's been in your yard, not mine, and they have that idea. And they don't realize that these bears will roam 15, 20, 25 miles in a day. So if you live 3 streets over, that don't matter. They just hadn't found you yet. So I don't know what the perfect answer is.
Okay. Appreciate it.
The best answer is education, but how do you educate everybody, especially the renters? And we can come up with ordinance, we can come up with educational material. But
We've
that
had it
has to
out for a
be
year.
passed out to every renter and maybe get them to sign that they got it and tell them they'll be fined if they found doing so. I don't
I
know.
don't
I'm
think it's
just
the renters.
brainstorming
It's the
with
landlords.
something to talk about.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I agree with you, but the renters are a minority population here. It's the residents, and the ones I've talked to all don't wanna take away my bird feeder. And, you know, so we're kinda in a rock and a hard place as far as I'm concerned, because DNR says, hey, if you don't fix the problem, we're not really gonna be inclined to help you when you really do have when the problem's back. I think, they've alleviated some of it now, but, but if they're not willing to come back because we're not trying, so now how do we handle it? And so how do we keep everybody happy with something else?
Take the bird feeders down.
You can't keep everybody happy.
No, I
you know
know
that.
that. But I have another question as well, just kind of on this point, but it came up. Dumpsters, I sold a condo over here, Turnberry, on Spyglass. And they were asking about the bear-proof dumpsters and things like that. And does the city own those dumpsters? I thought they were private.
We own one. We own one.
Which one?
Waterfall.
For water?
The one at the water.
One at the waterfall.
Oh, you're
The
talking
the
about
rest of
that
them
lockable
privately
dumpster
owned.
down, okay.
The rest of them.
Well, because there was some I couldn't understand why the city would own it, but there was some conversation over about, no, this is the city's problem, their dumpster is because it's our dumpster. I'm going, wanting to find out about that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
now you have to ask yourself, is the problem our dumpster, or is our problem your stuff you put in our dumpster improperly?
Well, that's right, but that's their
Now we're
issue. I'm just
splitting
trying to
hairs.
find
Now you're
out, was
splitting
another
hairs.
thing that we had to take
Exactly.
into consideration, and if it's their problem, that's fine, it's theirs. But if it's something else we needed to put on our plate to consider, I wanted to know about it.
Well, there's different types of dumpsters. Like I said, Helen has a couple of different types of dumpsters over there that they're using. They've got the spring type. They've got the type where you can slide the door open and throw your bags in. But if you don't slide that door shut, the bear's gonna go right in it. I mean, so a lot of it is human behavior that's causing the problem.
Those units that the timeshare owners are not supposed to be bear-proof, but they had one up here where the big bear grabbed a hold of it and pulled that door right out.
So they open them.
So there, I mean, it's, the small bear and so forth can't get in them, but a big bear, big male bear, can grab that door and open it, because he has.
Yeah, being over at Timeshare will tell you that the bears get in their cans, and they've got the latches on them, but it's a flip latch, and the bear slapping it is gonna pop it open eventually, and they get in them. But once again, there is no perfect answer. We live in the forest, we have bears.
Have bears gotten in our compactor?
They've been known to, haven't they?
In the
compactor?
No,
Not this compactor, but the old styles
probably the old style.
The old styles that were open topped, but this one, no, the only time I've ever had a report of a bear even at the compactor was when someone didn't close the door. And, that's the only time I've ever heard of it. And that, once again, someone didn't close the door.
The landlords need to advise their renters that when they leave, that rather than put trash out at the street, they'd be able to take it to the compactor.
But that was something that you'd probably have to take up with their powers. Because they've got all the information that we've got. We've been, for the past year, we have gave out door hangers, we have gave out flyers, we've had information put out, it's been on the website, it's emailed, it's at City Hall, it's everywhere. But every renter don't come and check those areas. They come, they check in, they leave. So Timeshare has all that information that they provide. But it's just like anything else. I mean, they're human, the human factor. People choose to ignore.
Well, I've actually been talking with them in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and talking with the Public Works Director. And he says even though they have the bear-proof containers, he said it really doesn't solve a whole lot. He said you still have problems with it. And I asked him, I said, do y'all have an ordinance? He said, no. He says, the only thing we do is we try to enforce the bird feeder issue. He said that has come in to theirs more than anything. He said they have it set up that if they catch one after they've been cited, they will go out and fine the people for doing it because it is drawing bears to them. But he said they're like us, they have a lot of transient people coming in and out, and it makes it difficult to enforce what they can and cannot put in the containers. And I talked with him a couple of different times, and his recommendation was instead of investing a lot of money in some of these bear-proof containers, he said, get you a few, try them, see how they work. He said they may not work. He said you may find out they're not worth the extra money. He said because you may just be pouring money down the drain. He said but don't go out and replace everything with bear-proof containers. He said they are expensive and sometimes they just don't do the job.
Well, if it's a renter issue, and it seems to be, I hear more today talking about renters,
Right.
if there were not on-site facilities to put the garbage, they would be forced to take it to the compactor.
True.
You know, just leave it out on the street
That's
as
what
they leave
they'll
town.
do. That's what they'll do.
Which
Our
I've seen.
permanent residents are really good about, they know when the trash truck comes. They're good about that. Our permanent residents' greatest defense is bird feeders. Our visitors is setting bags of garbage out. Or they'll cook on the grill that's provided and not clean it, and then the bear comes that night sniffing around. And raccoons, bears are not the only violator, raccoons as well. Raccoons make a big mess too.
Yeah.
You know, I have to interrupt because I live in Turnberry condos, and I've had this problem ever since I've lived here. And I was told by the city manager 5 years ago, when the bears destroyed our enclosure and had been destroying the dumpster, that the city owned our dumpster, but we owned the enclosure. So I want to know from you all, you are the city, are you telling me that you do not own the dumpster at
We
Turnberry?
do own the dumpsters. The city does own that dumpster.
The actual.
They have a lot of, see, our truck is set up to dump, we have to back it, pull the can out, it dumps from the back.
Right.
The cans we do not own is the ones that the truck comes in with the forks and lifts over the cab. We don't own none of those.
Okay.
But the ones like at yours, down below you at Dawkins and stuff,
Yeah,
but they own that one. It's a smaller dumpster, but it's still the city's. The city does have a handful of dumpsters in.
okay.
We've had to remove some and put the rolling cans because we've had issues with the bottom of these things rusting out. We have repaired them, and they're beyond repair on a lot of them. So we've had to pull some out and go with the roll-on cans. They're not fireproof, they're just plastic can like anybody else can get, you know, at Home Depot or wherever. But we do own a handful of dumpsters that we dump.
But you're asking
Kind
about
of
the
show
wood.
the council the
This
picture
is
of our
what their
dumpster.
dumpster looks like
I mean,
now.
so I can take a bird feeder down, but what good is that gonna do me when I live with that? That's pretty bad shape for a city dumpster, I would say.
I don't know how old those dumpsters are. I've been here 10 years and they was here when I come.
I'm sure they're
I have
very
no
old.
idea how long the city's owned those.
Well, thanks for clarifying that, because that's
Yes.
what I was told, that was the case, and that's why I asked.
And I was told the same
Needs to be
thing.
a
Yes, that definitely needs to be replaced.
Condo units are
We own
enclosed.
That's the city.
That's what I was told.
Am I right, James, that we own the enclosure?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That was what I was told years ago.
James, will you bring us a list of all the dumpsters that are in this state or that the city owns that need to be replaced?
Because if you do decide, as Ella said, to not rush out and buy a whole ton of them because they're so expensive, but in a case like this where it obviously has to be replaced with something, you could start there.
This is a great example of what I was just talking about in Helen. That plastic lid with the spring on it, the bears get on and bounce.
Yeah.
And this is what happens.
Yeah.
It collapses in on them. And the bears do that. They know to do that.
Smart.
And we went as far, I remember a couple of years ago, we had steel plates. People were doing it. They still do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just.
I know it's
They might be
losing
big
value.
difference.
They got all the money in the world, they don't get it.
And in her situation is where, like in Helen, they experimented with the caged enclosures. Like,
I'm sure our
imagine your wooden
association-
one would be replaced with a wire one with a roof and a gate on it. And then the trash guys would come open up the gate and then they would roll the dumpster out and dump it. And that works great until someone don't shut, they bring their trash out and they throw it out there and they don't latch it. Now the bears get in there, now you've essentially trapped a bear in there. And that's the problem they had with them, was they were trapping a lot of air inadvertently.
Well, it doesn't seem like anything's gonna solve it all the way. I don't think that the state of Georgia expects that either. What they expect is us, a city, to take some proactive actions. Then if we do run into a problem bear or something and we need to call them, they can come up here and trap it. Sounded to me like if we just sit back and don't do anything, that
They're not gonna be able
the
to.
guy wouldn't get the authority from his supervisor to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's gonna be something that I think needs to be put in place. And it should address things like if a property owner has a rental and their renters leave trash out and it gets, a fine needs to be associated with that. It needs to have, some kind of teeth in it.
Or if the fine goes to the owner.
But no, that's what
That's
I
where it
mean.
would have to be.
The owner could go there, but the owner then could also have in their rental agreement with their renters that if you leave this out, in other words, give me $100 deposit if you leave the trash out, and I'll give your deposit back. That would be
That would be a good way
the
to do it.
owner's responsibility.
Excuse me, I have another situation in the
Sure.
Riviera condo, you all know Al Dawkins where they live. The end units in those buildings are used for rentals most of the time. And where their dumpster is located is way over on one end. So when all those renters, they have to drive by Turnberry to get to their unit, they see our dumpster. So we're kind of responsible because we catch them all the time dumping their trash in our dumpster, the city's dumpster. And, how are you gonna fine us for something that nobody may be doing that lives there? I mean, I can understand a private home and everything, but You're gonna have to think all this through. We gotta.
Find the
big
owner of
situations.
the
Yeah,
unit. Not,
Yeah, but
not
somebody's
primary.
You
gonna
can't
have-
identify them, what she's
Yeah.
saying.
yeah.
Ah,
When I first came to Sky Valley, I lived there by her and Rusty, and you come out and take your trash out, and we're the only people in the building. Well, I come out the next morning and it's overflowing, you're like, there's no one here but us. Where did it come from? I think that's what you're asking
Yes,
about,
yeah.
because other people are dumping it. So the question will be, how do you hold them accountable for someone who doesn't live there, driving by and dumping it in their dumpster? And I think that's your question, right?
Yeah, well, I thought we should have this video surveillance back up for a while over here that watches this compactor dumpster. And, I like the idea of doing that. Those are pretty phenomenal nowadays. Motion detected.
Yeah, I had a bear come up to my house, and these guys are pretty, they moved railroad ties to get it rugs. And I was astonished to find out that I saw this little bear running up into the woods, a little one, and Mama Bear was going, because I guess she heard me. But I got down there and they'd taken one paw and got nailed down railroad ties out of the ground to get to grubs. So, they're hungry, they're gonna go anywhere. And the idea that landlords should have something in their rental agreement, and they should have something posted in their rental to describe what the rules are. Whether it's a Turnberry or an individual house or whatever, because, if you inform those people and inform the owner that if you don't do this, you're gonna get nailed. That's just the way it has to be, and we're not gonna keep them out altogether.
so they don't know who people are that are dumping in their trash can there.
I think those people at least are trying to get it in the dumpster. It's the people that, when they leave on Monday morning or Sunday night or whatever, they leave it out at the end of the driveway,
Yeah,
that's the trouble.
yeah.
I have metal cans, and the bears have gotten into them occasionally, but I've got a latch on them, and I have a latch that turns, so it's pretty hard, but they can stretch the lid enough to get in there with a paw and start pulling stuff out of there. So I've had to pound the shape of the lid back down a little bit and reform it because they can get into it. So, and that's the one with the can that's inside that lifts out. But that hasn't been very often. That's happened a couple of times over the course of the time I've lived here, but it does help. There's no way in the world I can sit a garbage bag out in the street in the morning, or even a trash can. They're pretty.
Renters that rent individual homes, I would say it's probably, James can correct me, but I think those are some of the more egregious violations, because the renters are here for the weekend, when they leave, they clean up and they put their trash out on Sunday evening.
Yep.
Most of our permanent people put their trash out Monday morning. That night is when a lot of this occurs.
Yeah. And the city provides that compactor right there, there's no reason to, not put it there.
You're never gonna solve
Drop
it all, all you can do is the best you can.
Yeah, that's right,
If I'm renting over on Sky High, I'm not gonna drive all the way over here
They
and
wasn't.
throw my trash out. I'm gonna put it in the driveway and hit the road in
They-
Atlanta,
You're
and
right.
that's what happens.
They are.
Well, this
Yeah.
is going to be an ongoing
Yeah.
problem that we're going to have to work on in piecemeal. We're going to try something here, try something there, until we can get not a complete solution, but a 90% solution. As far as the renters are concerned, that the notice should be sent to the people that own the property, that you will be fined if your renters leave garbage out and it's spread all over, that they are, before they leave, take it down to the dumpster and put it in there. No, do not leave it sitting out. And if we find that it's there, then it's the landlord that's going to be fined.
Excuse me, that's well and fine, but before, I've watched the bears over the timeshares, those round buildings there off Sky Valley Way. The bears pick bags up and they go off, and then they tear up
That's
So
right.
how are you gonna
That's right.
prove if the bag is open in front of this poor guy's house
Well,
that he did it?
We certainly
Well,
want
if
to be
it's
able to
left-
prove where all the garbage has. What we're trying to do is to be proactive and make an effort towards correcting the problem. But yeah, I mean, any situation we can say, you can also say, well, what if this, that, or the other? So, we just
Well, I
have to do the
think-
best
We
we
have
can.
no, we're not gonna end up with any solution, guaranteed, but we're gonna keep trying.
Oh, I hope
And
so.
so, as far as that, and that's what you say is true, that a raccoon will spread the garbage around the can. The bear picks it up and goes somewhere, back on somebody else's lawn and something.
It'll be in
Tear it all
dinner.
up. So,
But you are gonna
We're-
have
we're
to
not-
inform all the
we've got a
homeowners.
problem with both of them, but we have one of the main problems is the people leaving on Sunday night or Sunday morning or whatever, and putting the garbage out there. Now it says so through the night and daytime. So that is, if we can stop that, that's one problem that's gonna be solved. And then we just keep going. We might try a different container, or I don't know, you could say here, and try this, try that, but we'll try them all one at a time until we try to find a solution that's gonna be satisfactory to the whole valley.
Yeah, you got all kinds of situations, like, we used to travel and camp, and you talk about the power of a bear. We recognized one morning that somebody, they cleaned up their tables, they cleaned everything all up, and they put a ham or something like that in the trunk of their car. It was a Volvo with the old style, you know. That bear just went, and that trunk was ripped off. So so whatever you try to do as a container, just, and we stayed at Fairfield Glade, a place you might know in Tennessee, big area with a lot of housing and timeshare and all that, and 5 golf courses. I believe, I'm not positive about this, but when we used to go there in the timeshare, you part of it, take your garbage outside when you leave. But the last time or two we stayed there, they said, no, don't leave it in there. When the people come to clean your house, they'll take care of the garbage. And I thought that was a pretty smart move on the part of the timeshare people there, because they were having a bear problems and so forth. And
Maybe the renters need to do that.
They just,
Maybe the homeowner needs to say that to the renters, please leave your garbage in there. When we
well,
come in
either
to
that
clean
or
it
the
up.
timeshare people, it's just something that just happened to think about, put into the discussion thing, so I don't know. Maybe a discussion to have with the timeshare people.
Bob, I'll just add one more thing. We talked about Valley View, and I think many know that we replaced our dumpster with one with a steel lid, and that seems to have helped. But we also put lights out at night that are on sensitive to motion, and that's helped a little bit. I think sometimes if they come around and that light comes on, that'll kind of scare them off.
That's a good idea.
That never
I
bothered me.
mean, that's an inexpensive way to do it too.
That'll do it for 1 or 2 times.
They get
But
used
then
to it.
after that,
They
they'll
figure-
sit there and pose for the picture.
They're smart.
They'll have to play.
All right,
So,
any more discussion
solve this
on
problem.
the bear ordinance?
I do actually.
Okay.
So what do y'all propose for the bird feeders? Because I'm looking through this and I found one from Colorado, a town in Colorado, that says bird feeders are permitted, however, between the dates of April 15th and November 15th, all feeders must be suspended on a cable or other device so that they are inaccessible to bears, and the area below said feeders must be kept free from the accumulation of seed debris. I mean, that's one way to do it, because it doesn't sound like y'all want to completely ban bird feeders, because I think people enjoy those, and I don't, based on, I think from what the DNR guy said, that at certain times of the year, they're fine and appropriate, and bears aren't. really here to.
We hung our
Yeah,
bird
yeah,
feeder
he-
off
he
at
did
Cable
say
one
that.
time.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know what y'all wanna do on that.
That may be a good, compromise to look at.
Okay.
Not ban them, but do put requirements and clean up under it.
Yeah.
It'd be a proactive approach. And hey,
Again,
while you're studying that, Doug, in solid waste, we've got a couple different ordinances, collection, disposal of garbage. And so we've got some ordinance in there that address it. I just read where you're supposed to put your garbage out between 7:30 and 8:30 on
Yeah.
the day of that, so.
Yeah, so I think y'all already have those in place, right?
Yeah, so if you'll take a look at that and make sure that it reads appropriately where we can fine somebody and then back that fine up and municipal court if we have to.
I have one suggestion about that. A lot of these people, most of us don't,
I was trying to.
unless we have a particular interest, we don't read ordinances all the time like you guys sit down.
From the tree.
And I think some of the pertinent cautions that we have on these things, it might be good to have a homeowner's distribution for particular ones that are very pertinent to what happens with your house, like bird feeders and how to deal with bears and all that thing. And send those out to everybody and say, you know, some of the tree ordinances is one thing that happens, if you want to do it, you do it. But these things are continuous action ordinances.
And we
Yeah.
try to give out, like, when I get new homeowners,
Mhm.
I give them all new information. I go over it with them, so when they're there, they've gotten it. I know it's a lot to take in at one time. I go over the garbage ordinance, I go over the water ordinance. You can preach and preach and preach. I put it on your water bill. Do people read it? No. It's all if they want to or not. You can put all the pamphlets you want out. They ain't gonna read it.
Well, there's fines associated with this.
But with- yeah.
Right.
And that's why I go over the most, like the tree ordinance, I go over that stuff, what's most important, because I don't wanna see him in court, I don't. But I do go over that with every new homeowner, and they seem to pick that up a whole lot more, but it's my older residents. That's why I put everything on your water bill, that little message, I don't know how many people read it, but I put that on there for a reason, it's important. Garbage is probably one of the most, abused utilities we have. I've been here for 12 years. People still put their garbage out on Sunday night.
Yeah, well, we need to start enforcing it, and James, you can help us out with that by starting to give us addresses when there's violations of what we have in place, and we could send a courtesy letter with this ordinance, and then the next time they need to be fined. I mean,
And one thing we
Many
can
thoughts.
do with that as well, whoever is working like till 10 o'clock with the police department, when they're riding around, especially on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, they can
Good
look and
idea.
say,
Yeah.
hey, I see garbage here, and make a notation of those
yeah,
addresses.
because at that point, they've already violated the
Yeah.
ordinance.
That's true. That's a-
And that's before it gets actually strode out, because sometimes once it gets strode, you don't know if it came from this house or that house.
Or you could set a certain amount.
James?
Also, you need to do that with the recycle, because I get a lot of
Yeah.
that put out the night before also.
So
So we need to
Yeah.
include the recycle with the garbage.
And that's, Doug, when this was written, we didn't have a recycle service in place.
Okay.
So when you're working on that, we need to,
Yeah,
thanks, James, good point.
garbage
Yeah.
and.
Recycle's not even in our ordinance right now
Need to
because it's
redo
so
all
new.
those.
Our garbage ordinance is from 1996.
97, yeah,
Yeah,
96,
it's old,
97.
it needs to be redone.
And while we're talking about that, we can incorporate the rate changes as well, so.
Are you talking about fines? We have something here.
Yeah, there was one, although those fines look pretty low, actually.
Yeah.
From what the town is.
Well, I mean, I think, just like we had the one situation where somebody was feeding bears, I think if we can identify that, that ought to be a definite fine. That, I don't see that as being something like the bird feeders were.
No, yeah, unintentionally.
Yeah, I mean,
Baby,
that's,
feeder
yeah,
baby,
you're
bears,
actually
definitely.
intentionally creating the problem. All right.
I guess you could count birds as wildlife.
They are.
Yeah.
So it's Lexington.
Anything?
Birds, somebody said birds in wintertime, if you want to feed birds in wintertime, it's the time to do it out there. I mean, birds, we train birds to become dependent on us for food when there's ample food around during the spring, summer, fall.
Mhm.
You know, that's, you go to any wildlife park in the country, and they'll have people telling you all the time,
Yeah.
do not feed the animals.
Okay.
That's right, and burning too, just know what to plant. I mean, we plant a lot of stuff around our house this year for hummingbirds. The kids did a little project and it really worked. We had a lot, no hummingbird feeders.
That's a good plan.
Well, this is not gonna celebrate now, but it's something that we're gonna bring back at a later date to see what, and notify you, the Sky Valley as to steps we have taken, what we feel that we want to try and so forth. So we'll continue to bring everyone up to date as to what we're going to be doing with the bear ordinance.
In the meantime, what are we gonna do about that container that the city owns? It's over there.
It's already
This
been
one,
taken
yeah,
care of.
we'll address that. I'll get with James and he and I'll go out and look and see what we can do now
Okay.
I
in the
appreciate
meantime.
it,
So we
and I'm
gotta
sure
get something
we all
done.
do.
Yeah, that looks rather.
Because, you know, Chip can tell y'all, our condos are maintained very well. I mean, our association doesn't let anything go. And, you know, that's the worst thing.
Right.
Well, do you have a problem with replacing that dumpster with the roll-off cans?
You know, the president was just here over the weekend, and he's willing to work with the city in any way that we can to take care of this problem.
Okay.
So, you know, they are open.
Okay. Make sure I see you after the meeting.
Okay.
All right, we have added one more item that's not on the
Yeah, y'all need to amend the agenda.
and it has to do with bringing you up to date on SDS.
Bob, I'll make a motion that we amend the agenda
To bring
to
these in.
add SDS and our Facebook page to the.
Facebook page, you don't need to.
No, okay, just SDS then.
All right, we have a motion to amend the agenda to add SDS.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
The problems with SDS was great. I mean, it's been going on. But first, what I want to say is that when this all started, I appointed Paul Chip to look into this for the city with the authority to, not to sign anything, but to represent the city of Sky Valley. I want to say that they've done a tremendous job. I'm very proud of both of them. I can't thank them enough, and the citizens of Sky Valley should thank them. So with that, I'd like to have Skip just bring us up to date on SDS.
Well, okay, thank you, Bob. I think most of you know that we did get to an impasse quite a while back with the county and the cities, and finally ordered, or came to a voluntary mediation was supposed to be held on the 17th. For whatever reason, the judge couldn't make it, so it got postponed, and at this point, as far as we know, the mediation is postponed indefinitely. This is actually quite a surprise. The other day, I got a call at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to find out that they were having an open meeting at the Dillard House between Clayton's entire city council and the commissioners of Rayburn County. We attended that meeting, and it was actually, it was one of the better meetings we've actually had, because there was no attorneys allowed, there was no managers allowed, it was strictly the commissioners and the council members of Clayton sitting down. And of course, as I say, it was an open meeting, so the public was there were only 2 people. But Anyway, so the meeting went very well. I think, you know, the idea is to try to alleviate the need for mediation. We have amended because of a change in the Superior Court has overturned one of the, one of their decisions that was made by the Superior Court in Greene County in Greensboro, that excluded roads and really gave, you know, didn't give the cities much leverage to get roads back, because that's a major double taxation. As I keep harping on it, you're paying in your county taxes for the county to pay these roads, and you well know they don't do that. You pay the city of Sky Valley to do it, and that's the double taxation we have there. That's been one of the tough ones. We've asked for the $60,000 or $1 mil actually, because you know, we don't know the millage rate's going to change, and this can last as long as 10 years. So they so far have kind of indicated they agree to the 1 mil for the fire department. Roads and stormwater, we've asked for that they have maintained to an extent Ball Mountain Road. A lot of people don't understand that when a county road crosses a city limit line, that now becomes a responsibility of the city until it leaves the city on the other side. Ball Mountain, in our case, when it crosses the state line, it's our responsibility until it goes out right before Heatherstone. And so they've been maintaining that some in the past, but we've asked that they continue to maintain that. Let's see. James had brought this up, and I think this was something that the county had talked with you and wanted to put a salt barn up here and so forth, because the county has to run salt and chat all the way from Clayton to maintain unincorporated Rayburn County outside of the city limits of Ball Mountain Road. And that's a long drive, as you all know, to do that every time a truck's empty. We discussed that a little bit in brief the other night. They did not commit to put it in Sky Valley, but they did admit they want one in the northern side. I'd like to see this, you know, continue to encourage that come here, because it is accessible for everybody and would help us. Because of the roads issue, we've also asked for a $74,500 offset cash payment for roads and bridges to help us with our annual roads, pavings, and maintenance. We've added that. Our initial request did not include that because at the time Superior Court had not ruled. Now that they have, so we've gone back to that. Solid waste, they've kind of indicated solid waste that they're acceptable to drop tipping fees. Their issue was that, and I could see their point in this, but I think, you know, we all agreed that, you know, this can be taken care of, and that was that, you know, all of our trash goes to the dump in city-marked trucks. However, our container does not. It goes down in a generic truck. And so they're going, all right, well, what's to stop Waste Management from pulling in one of their big trucks and saying, hey, we're here for Sky Valley? And they waive the tipping fee for that truck. So, you know, we talked about signage, or, you know, I said, hey, you brought up the idea of saying, hey, all right, fine, we'll ask our contractor to throw Sky Valley's, you know, magnetic signs on the side of his truck when he goes down to the dump and whatever. And so they all kind of agree. We can figure some way to identify that one, even if we had to say, all right, we're sending a truck down there today if you had to make a phone call.
Okay.
So anyway, that hasn't been worked out, but that seemed to be the real hurdle of getting rid of the tip, or dropping the tipping fee.
How much is that gonna save us? Pretty good bit.
Dropping the tipping fees, about 18,000 a year, varies a little bit.
Okay.
Right, now, we wouldn't get that in a cash, we would just not have to spend that.
Right, but
That's
it saves us.
That's an
It does
expense
save
we would
us
no
money.
longer have, yeah.
There was at one point considering taking a cash payment for that to offset it, but it was literally within days or a week that they discussed, well, we're gonna change the rates to dump garbage, so we realized right quick, like if we took a one solid fee for say 10 years, Well, that's not gonna work. I mean, we have no idea if I doubt they would, but let's just say they double the tipping fees, we'd be back to paying $15,000, say, or $18,000. So anyway, that'll work there. County Marshal Services and Planning and Zoning and Building, we've asked for $13,000 on county marshals and planning and zoning, $2,700. By the way, these figures are all done based on our percentage of what we pay in. In other words, we have $600 million worth of value here, and we've equated that to about 3.5% that we impact. So we took their total budget and just said, okay, you're spending this much money. 3.5% of that, we'd like to have it come back. So this is where it came from. So we're currently asking for $1,150,250 a year in payment, plus like I say, the maintenance, huh?
1 million what?
No, 150, I was, but $150,250.
And that's per year.
That's per year in cash. In other words, they just write us a check one time a year for that, and that'll offset everything except the services that they are going to, forgive, such as the tipping fees. So this is where we're at. One thing I think a lot of people misunderstand, and there's a lot of rumor I hear out here talking about we need to be talking to Rayburn County. The only cities that have a seat at a table when it comes to SDS are cities that have a population of greater than 500 people. We don't have that, so we have a secondary seat. And there's only 2 cities out of the 6 that qualify, and that's Mountain City and Clayton. And Clayton is, the reason we're working so diligently with Clayton is they have offered to give us an ear at the seat. They can actually go out and make any deal they want to make, and we could be left out. But, we've worked with them on SPLOST, and they're working with us here. And so it's very important that we continue that good relationship we built there. Let's see. I don't know what else. Oh, animal control was another big one. And because the unincorporated portions of Rayburn County was getting 24-hour animal control services. The cities were 9 to 5. Well, I think y'all understand it. Animals don't work on biker's hours, so that doesn't really work for us. So the idea now that's being seems to be quite palatable for everybody is that they will provide the same service to the unincorporated and the municipalities. Now, it doesn't mean they can't change the service, but we would hope that they would offer 24-hour service there. I don't really know what else.
So we're pretty close to signing one.
Yeah.
When's the deadline?
Well, there is no deadline. It can go on forever until we go to mediation. So the deadline is really at the point that Sky Valley and the city of Clayton decide to go ahead and file a petition with the court, which will cause court-ordered mediation. I think we'd have done that at the very beginning. We'd have had mediation months ago, but we've tried not to go, heavy-handed with it and be polite. So as we walked out of the meeting the other day, they kind of indicated they would be in touch with us in about a week to 10 days. So we'll see. So.
But again, the important part is if you can get that done, then you can we once again will be eligible for grants.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And that's something else I'd like everybody to know about SDS that they probably don't know. When I talk about cities of under 500 not having a seat at the table, had the administration done it 3 years ago, cities under 500, since they don't have a seat at the table, can petition the courts for governmental status during the interim period that the cities and the counties that do qualify to negotiate. So we could have had our government status, we could have been getting grants had everybody, had the administration actually known how SDS works.
Wow.
So this is, as far as Sky Valley goes, is a self-inflicted one for the last, 3 years.
Well, but if that's the case, that's not just Sky Valley, that's all the cities in Rayburn County, correct?
Well, yeah.
The smaller cities, less than 500, could have gone to the judge,
All
yeah.
right. But now let me take you back to this, and this brings another caveat to the thing. STS basically is double services. In other words, it's assigning a service such as roads. All right, who's gonna pave your roads for you? There's only 3 cities that charge property taxes. Tallulah Falls, Clayton, and Sky Valley. So therefore, the other cities really do not have an SDS problem. In other words, the service, they're paying the county for their services, and they're getting the services from the county. So, to answer your question is yes, say Dillard could have gone down and gotten their status, so it would have been nice for them to get grants, but they really, they all could have, and probably should have. But, they were just riding the coattail of the county. So, and that's why they don't go along with us, by the way, on SDS. That's why you don't see them at the table. Tallulah Falls only has a very small portion of their city is actually in Rayburn County. So that's another reason they're not really a big player. So that leaves Sky Valley and Clayton as the only 2 taxing authorities that really have a real role here. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Y'all did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
If no further questions, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.